The Path of Abundance is led by an Aeon whose only concern is to ensure that every living being lives for as long as possible, but also that the universe is teeming with as much life as possible. It supports actions like healing and helping others. So it's no wonder that the followers of Abundance are one of the more numerous compared to the other paths and factions within Star Rail. While other paths and Aeons have around 1 or 2 factions that follow them, the Abundance technically boasts a total of 4. But why are they so popular? Well, in this video, we're going to explore each of these 4 factions and determine what their motivations are for following the Aeon of Abundance. Before we discuss the sub-factions of Abundance, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. Like most factions, each of them follow the Aeons and their paths because they believe in something related to those paths specifically. Abundance is no different. While the Xianzhou Alliance will have you believe that the Abundance are nothing more than mutated abominations, some of these factions follow Yaoshi not only because of their own personal goals. Let's start with arguably the largest faction within the Abundance family, the Denizens of Abundance. The Denizens of Abundance aren't a specifically homogeneous group and are a loosely affiliated group of sentient creatures who have received blessings from Yaoshi in one way or another. This is why this particular faction is referred to by the Xianzhou Alliance as the Abominations of Abundance. The blessings they receive can vary from increased regeneration to outright immortality, and while you might think that these gifts are granted for their service to Yaoshi, a majority of the time they are granted due to the actions of Yaoshi in following its primal mobile. What I mean is that for most of the Denizens of Abundance, more often than not, their civilizations tended to be on the verge of extinction either because their world has been at war, has been ravaged by natural disaster, or they simply ran out of resources. This would be the moment in which Yaoshi would descend and grant them gifts that would ultimately extend their life and ensure the survival of their people. Yaoshi does this purely because it is in her nature to do so, to extend the life of any and all creatures as part of the Abundance path and not as a reward of some sort, though she still does that from time to time. Most of these civilizations then consider her as a savior and would sing praises of her throughout the galaxy as a way to repay her supposed kindness. Some among them though do this rather aggressively, like the Borisin, whose culture and belief system compels them to incite war across the cosmos. The Borisins are not the only members, however, and there are many separate groups that fall under the Denizens of Abundance, such as the Cobrakines, Heliobi, Viscorpi, and the Wingweavers, all of which are listed in the Xianzhou list of archenemies. There isn't any indication that these individual groups have to work together though, and because there are so many of them, I might make a video detailing them out individually in the future. On top of that, like most that receive the blessings of Yaoshi, most of these creatures are said to be mutated in some way, or rather have different types of immortality. The Borisins, for example, can regenerate any internal organ that is removed from them, but given enough time, those organs would mutate into a mass of cells if left outside their bodies for too long. There also seems to be a fundamental difference between the immortality each group is granted with, as the Borisins, for example, differs when compared to the Xianzhou, as most long-lived species on the Xianzhou do not seem to have any mutations, though they experience Mara. Functionally, the Denizens of Abundance are the faction closest to the Plague Author and are those that have directly received its gifts. Now, the rest of the factions are those that technically haven't received Yaoshi's blessings but are in pursuit of them. The first we'll talk about is the Sanctus Medicus, which if you've played the Xianzhou Luofu storyline, you should be somewhat familiar with, though I've heard that Hoyoverse has changed this slightly for some reason. What you might not know is that there's actually 2 groups even within the Sanctus Medicus, the Old Disciples and the one led by Dan Shu. The Old Sanctus Medicus are actually pretty harmless. In the past, they resided mostly on the Xianzhou ships and prayed to Yaoshi in secret, and were likely around during the time the Xianzhou were aligned with the Aeon of Abundance. Since then though, they have renounced their allegiance to her and has been working with the Xianzhou Alliance to better improve their healthcare system through other means. So it's likely they still contribute to the Path of Abundance as like healers or something, but they try to do so with their own abilities instead of through gifts granted by Yaoshi. Those from this sub-faction believe that Mara exists because the blessings of Yaoshi were improperly executed or used. The other group, led by Dan Shu, is the more extreme one. They believe that the Mara is not an affliction, but rather a blessing, and is the next step in evolution for any long-lived species. Because of the Trailblazer, however, this group has largely ceased to exist, as they have been rooted out by the Nameless and the Xianzhou Luofu, and the fact that Fentilia practically threw them under the bus. The next faction who claims to follow the Abundance are called the Elixir Seekers. They are a group of non-immortals who, surprise surprise, are looking to gain immortality. Much like the other factions, this isn't an official group or anything, but rather a category where all similar people searching for immortality are grouped under. Any who leave their planet in search of the fabled immortality elixir hidden within the bosom of Yaoshi can be grouped as an elixir seeker. This makes the group rather varied, as people of different backgrounds may be motivated to extend their life for different reasons. Perhaps it is a king who wishes to continue ruling his subjects. Maybe it's an adventurer who doesn't want their journey to end. Or maybe it's just a merchant looking to make a lot of money. Regardless, all those who go in search of the key to immortality are considered to be elixir seekers. There are, however, larger groups within this one, and I don't want you to think that these are just individuals. The interesting thing is that the Xianzhou Alliance can be considered to be a part of this faction in the past, as they too were once sent out into the astral seas in search of such immortality. Regardless, the Elixir Seekers are nothing more than opportunists, and likely only hold allegiance to Yaoshi in hopes of obtaining the immortality they wish for so badly. Last on the list of the Abundance faction is one that is actually pretty reasonable, at least on paper, the Unshackled. Those from this particular faction are actually pretty normal and, for the most part, law-abiding citizens. In fact, they are considered to be non-threatening and are even allowed on Xianzhou ships. So why are such reasonable people affiliated with an immortal group like the Abundance? Well, you know how the Abundance is all about the extension of life and its propagation? You see, the way the Unshackled operates is that they like to release creatures or animals that are in captivity back into the wild. By doing this, they essentially preserve and extend the lives of those creatures. The problem is that they are sometimes indiscriminate about their actions. One day, they could release a dog from an abusive owner, which is great. But on another day, they might be releasing a dragon that kills thousands of people. They can sometimes be uncompromising in their actions, and while their heart might be in the right place, sometimes their actions can lead to a lot of problems. So the followers of Abundance are varied, to say the least. In truth though, only the Denizens of Abundance are actually the closest followers, while the rest are offshoots who don't really follow Yaoshi but practice the path of abundance in some way. I think because we are shown the abundance through the lens of the Hunt and the Xianzhou, they may have a rather bad reputation. I'm hoping that we get a storyline related to them soon so that maybe we can see the other side of that coin. Until then, the Abundance will remain a group who are immortal and will continue to grow in numbers since, well, they can't die. Let me know in the comments whether you think the Abundance is a dangerous group or just misunderstood. If you enjoyed the video, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.